I put my right knee on the ground and detonated an improvised explosive device, which instantly ripped off both of my legs and my right arm. I instantly snapped out of it because I thought about the rest of the team. There were 6 or maybe 7 other IEDs in that bow that were shit. You know, we weren't under attack. I was the guy that stood on and detonated the improvised explosive device. I mean, the rehab, it sucked. I was about to laugh or cry. Every step towards that car was agony.
On this episode of the Elite Podcast, I speak to Mark Ormrod MBE, Royal Marines veteran, triple amputee, entrepreneur, speaker, author, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt.
Mark, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm tired. It took me a long time to get up here from Plymouth to Liverpool, but I'm good and I'm excited. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. How long did it take?
6.5 hours last night.
Oh, you came up last night then?
I did. I cruised up just after lunch with the family yesterday.
And you were here very prompt. Good to see.
Super early. I hate being late.
No, I'm the same.
Yeah,
I'm the same as well.
It took me an hour to find a parking spot, so I'm glad that I did turn up early.
I know, it is. I did have a spot reserved for you, but you'd already got here by the time I'd sorted my shit out.
Yeah.
So,
but the main thing is we're here now.
Brilliant, that's good. So it's nice to meet you finally. You know, we've connected on Instagram, we've spoken over over Messenger and stuff.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming.
No problem, my pleasure.
I'm looking forward to getting stuck in because you've got loads to talk about.
Yeah.
So if it's okay with you, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, first of all, where you grew up, because I know you live in Plymouth, don't you?
Correct, yeah.
Are you from Plymouth? Did you grow
Born
up
and bred, lived there all my life. Don't know if I'll ever move. You know, it's a bit of an awkward age with the kids right now in school and everything, but you know, it's a nice little city.
Yeah. It's a city then, is it? I thought it was a
town.
No, right.
Yeah. It's by the sea, which I love.
Yeah.
And you can just hop over to Tamar Bridge and you're in Cornwall.
Yeah,
you know, you have a little staycation every weekend if you want. So it's great, but it is, with the way my life is now, lots of time in London and bigger cities, traveling a lot, and you know, it's at the ass end of the country.
Everywhere's miles away, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just a bit of a pain logistically, but it's a beautiful city. So
yeah, well, that's it. If you can, you know, you can cut yourself about and get there still, then it's worth it, isn't it, to retreat to somewhere you like. Yeah. I mean, I moved to Liverpool 10 years ago now, and again, I was in the Midlands, so I was pretty central from everything. London's an hour and a half away.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then your Birmingham's half an hour away.
Yeah.
And then Liverpool was 2 hours. Manchester's 2 hours. Like,
nice.
Everything
Accessible.
was, literally the 80-20 rule. 80% of where I needed to go was close. So I've moved 2 hours away from everything, really.
Yeah.
But I just love it. It's nice.
It is what I've seen so far.
Do you know there's a beach in Liverpool?
Is there really? No,
not just a normal beach. Where I live in Formby, like one of the best beaches you've ever seen in the UK. Beautiful.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I tell you what, I was looking at when I was on the maps, planning the route up here. We're not that far from Wrexham, I don't think, are we?
Not too far. Yeah, not too
far. Might try and drop in on the way home, going because obviously Ryan Reynolds has made that place pretty famous, and his partner Rob Mickelhill with that TV show when they bought the football club.
That's right.
I might nip in there and see what it's all about.
Yeah, that seems to be the going trend, buying football clubs.
If you've got enough money for them.
I'll be able to tell you something about that next month, but can't say anything quite yet.
Okay.
Letting the cat out the bag.
Exciting.
Even though this will probably come out after, but anyway. Oh, so born in Plymouth.
Born and bred in Plymouth,
So what was it like growing up around there? What type of a character were you as a kid?
So I think if you pulled out my old school reports, my teachers would have referred to me as cheeky and energetic, which meant, I think, disruptive and a bit of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Not a bad kid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just you know, I feel very fortunate to grow up when I did and where I did. You know, pre-mobile phones, pre the internet, when you know, the streetlights came on and that was time to come home, or you heard your parents screaming from the doorstep that it was time to come in for dinner and stuff. So always out and about with friends, you know, building dens, playing football, getting covered in mud. And remember that feeling in the summer when they cut the grass and you're just itching all the time because you're sweaty, and going home and showering. And, you know, it was a great time to grow up.
Yeah, it certainly was, wasn't it? What year were you born?
83.
So I'm 76, but would have grown up in the 80s.
Yeah,
before
80s,
mobile phones and all the
before. I was going to say before DVDs, but before streaming. That people probably don't even know what DVDs are now.
Yeah,
VHS cassettes. But yeah, you know, great bunch of friends. Most of them were older than I was, 2 or 3 years older, the ones that I grew up with. So that, I think, helped me mature a little bit quicker. Not bad, not great at school. I wouldn't call myself an academic, although I can focus and knuckle down when I need to. You know, and when I did leave school, I only did my compulsory education. Back in the late 90s, I don't know how it is now. I think my eldest daughter did 14 GCSEs.
Bloody hell.
We only had to do 10 when I did it, and I got all 10. 9 of them were A to C's.
Oh, so you're quite academic then, naturally. Well, did you try?
I don't know what happened. I don't know how I did that. But I got 1 D in geography, I got an A, 2 B's, and the rest was C's. I surprised myself.
Did you revise for those, or was that just like from...
I did.
Yeah.
And I think I just somehow managed to pull it out the bag on test day. But yeah, so I could have went to college, went to university, and that kind of stuff if I wanted to. But it's just not my thing. I'm not really... I love to read and I love to learn, but only the stuff I'm interested in.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Do you know what I mean?
The environment at school isn't conducive to learning for me. It wasn't, because it wasn't sat there made to learn something that's against your will, that you're not interested in.
No.
You know, and then you leave and then you realise actually when you're interested in something, you just delve into it and pull it apart and just have an affair with the whole thing, and you just start learning it, don't you? So you're similar that way.
Totally similar that way. And that's, I think, as you grow up and you get older, you understand that a bit more. Because I think, I try to tell my kids this now, but you have to be very careful how you talk to them and what you say to them. But whenever they come back and they got homework and they're struggling with something, the message I'm trying to get across to them in as subtle a way as possible is, if you don't understand this and you're not good at this and you don't do well in a test, study, try hard, do your best. But if you don't do well, don't take it too hard and think that you're not smart because you can't regurgitate Pythagoras' theorem under test conditions, because that's not how life works.
No.
Do you know what I mean? You're not just in school. You're being fed content what they want you to learn. Then you're given conditions to show what you can learn. And if you don't ace that test in those conditions when they tell you to, people think, oh, you're not clever. Well, that's not the way it is.
You don't learn about failure really at school either, do you? I always thought you're either smart or you're not smart. I didn't realise that you could not know something, fail it, keep attempting it over and over again, and learning from those mistakes until eventually you get good at it. That's something I realised, obviously, when I joined the military and through martial arts.
Right, yeah. And those would be cool things that if they did teach kids at school, you know what I mean? And help them develop some more life skills. Yeah,
definitely needed, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I think it's a bit archaic, the educational system.
Yeah. What I used to love as well at school, I don't know how it is, I think it's a bit different nowadays, but like sports day?
Yeah.
If you didn't win, you didn't win. That's it, right? And then, you feel a bit down about that, you bounce back from that, you develop resilience from that. I think it's a bit different now. I think they're just everyone's a winner type thing. But I think it's important that you need to develop that resilience. That's why
100%,
my son now plays football. And I remember when he first started playing and they were losing, and he'd be in tears. And I'd had these conversations with him. I'm like, mate, you can't win all the time. That's not how it works. And plus, if you did, it wouldn't be as fulfilling and it wouldn't mean as much. You've got to lose and now figure out why you lost. This is football, so this is a team sport. Figure out how you lost as a team, and then figure out how to rectify those mistakes and win next time. And they develop resilience from that.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't really understand the power of sport in that world until I was a grown-up. It was all about for me, sport was fitness and health and winning, I didn't really understand the bigger lessons from it until I grew up.
No, you do. Martial arts teaches that a lot, though, doesn't it? Especially, because I know you're purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, aren't you? Yep. So you're getting tapped out every session. Do you know what I mean? So with sparring, if you go to the right gym, you shouldn't be kicking everyone's, head in. You should be getting you're getting your ass kicked quite a lot if you're in the right gym and get better, and you should be fighting. And then, because I did mat sports, you did mat sports back. I don't know if you did mat sports, but you did kickboxing, didn't you? Or
kickboxing and Muay Thai, yeah.
So with that, mat sports, you fight in your section. I used to fight in minus 94s, plus 94s, team event, and open weight. So you're not winning every fight.
No.
You win, because everybody's the top of their game in what we used to compete in. So if you fight in the open weight, that's got all the fighters from all the weights that are the best.
Yeah.
And you've got 2 or 3 in each weight that could possibly win each time is probably similar with jiu-jitsu. But you're learning each time. You're learning. You're getting better. You're steel sharpens steel, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I think. With jiu-jitsu, or all martial arts, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
If you can park your ego and understand that you don't have to win and you're not going to win every time, but every encounter you have, whether it's training, sparring, competing, win, lose or draw, every encounter you can learn from. You know what I mean? And that makes you 1%, 2%, 3%, 4% better than before you went into it.
Yeah, 100%.
I get tapped out by women and kids. Yeah. That was hard for me to deal with in the beginning. Yeah. I got tapped out by a 15-year-old when I was a white belt, and I'm like, what? Yeah. I found out later he was a Cage Warriors champion, and he pretty much got delivered in the hospital and went onto the mats, from the maternity ward.
Yeah, so I was like, 15-years are nails. We've got some at our club, and we do a 5-day instructor training course, and they have to spar on the Wednesdays. It was a military resettlement course originally. It's progressed somewhat now, and we used to get special forces guys, paras, marines, tough guys, and then I put 15-year-olds in there, just be kicking them all over the place. They're like, wow, that was humbling. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Humbling,
but it's good.
But
I did that on purpose to see how people would respond under pressure. Because the wrong type of people respond the wrong way. You don't really want to be working with them, do you? I like to see someone just laugh at it, laugh it off, go, that was brilliant. Yeah. You know what I mean? Fair play to the kids.
Yeah.
So you've grown up in Plymouth then. What stage did you realise you wanted to go into the military? And then why the Marines? Because obviously that's quite a unique regiment to go into. Not regiment, but a unit. So what started to happen? Or what age?
15.
Yeah.
It was when I was coming towards the end of school, and I knew I had these exams on the horizon. And after those exams, because you can't predict the grades you're going to get, but I just knew I had to at least make a choice, if I do well or if I do bad, what am I going to do? And you got 2 options. You go into further education and you go down that route, college, university, maybe go into some sort of career that requires a degree or something like that. Or you just jump in to the big bad world and you start your adult life. Now, I knew that further education wasn't for me because it was a struggle. Do you know what I mean? And I wasn't passionate about education and learning all that kind of stuff. But I also knew that I didn't want a job. I wanted a career. I wanted something where I could start at the bottom, work my way up and develop myself as a person and as an individual, because that's what I enjoy doing.
You want to submerge yourself into something.
Just something that was physically and mentally going to push me a little bit.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know what that looked like. I just knew.
Soon found out.
Yeah, and just now I said all my friends were older than me, right?
Yeah.
So they'd already left school, and I had friends in every branch of the military who were all over the world doing all sorts of stuff. And my friend John, who lived on the same street as me, was in the tank regiment in Germany. And every time he came home, he seemed to always have, loads of money.
Yeah.
He had a brand new car that he leased. He would tell me all these stories about these cool fitness tests that he'd been on and these guns that he'd shot and these tanks that he'd driven and these adventures he'd been on. And the more he told me and the more I thought about it as I was approaching the end of school, the more I kind of, in my gut, would think, yeah, I can see myself doing that. You know what I mean? It's like minimal classroom style stuff and maximum, physical and mental kind of stuff. So he actually took me to the career centre to join the army. And this is so strange looking back on it, but I was born and bred in Plymouth. The Royal Marines headquarters are in Plymouth. 4-2 Commando was in Plymouth. But I didn't know who the Royal Marines were.
Did you not really encounter them much growing up in Plymouth then?
No.
No, you don't?
No, you did, but I didn't, personally.
Okay. How far is Lympstone from there?
45 minutes.
Oh, so everything's on your
Everything is on my doorstep. And I just thought that if you wanted to join the military and be a soldier, you just joined the army. I thought that was the only option.
You don't realise that.
I didn't even know there were different branches of the army. I just thought you become a soldier, you learn how to fight. And
I used to think the Marines was part of the army when I was younger.
This is my point, right? Because there was no internet and you couldn't really research all this stuff. So he took me down and we spoke to the recruiter and he gave me the paperwork. I took it home. Because I wasn't 16, I had to get my parents to sign it. And my dad told me that I had a uncle who was in the Royal Marines. He had started as a Marine and he had done his full 22 years and then he left as a captain. And he lived halfway between Plymouth and Lympstone in a place called Buckfastleigh. So we went up there to visit him one weekend, the same weekend that I had been to see the army recruiter. And it was about 30 minutes from my house. And I remember we turned up, and he lived on like a barn conversion, like a farm complex. And we turned up, and he came up to open the gate, and this giant Alsatian came bounding up the path with a little Jack Russell behind it. There are a couple of horses in the field, the chickens and things all running around everywhere. It's chaos. And then as we opened the front door to go in, there was like a huge framed citation on the wall with a big sword on it with a green beret on the end of it. Now, the citation was like the summary of his 22 years in the military. The sword was because he was an officer, and the green beret was the green beret. And he sat me down and told me all about his career and what he'd done and seen and experienced, and the kind of stuff that I could expect to see, do, and experience if that was the road that I wanted to take, and if I was good enough to earn a green beret.
Explain about the level of fitness and like
everything. It was quite an intimidating conversation.
It's not just the level of fitness. People don't realise that, is it? That's like part of it. It's that same mindset to be elite, isn't it? And to be the very best at what you're doing.
The fitness is a small part of it, I think.
Oh, it really is, isn't it?
The rest of it is about your mindset, your resilience. And
you see a lot of really fit people, especially within the parachute regiment. I can imagine it's quite similar.
Yep.
All the athletes within a month are gone.
Yep.
Missing the girlfriend.
Yep.
First exercise when they're freezing cold and they can't sleep.
Or bizarrely,
this is shit.
like the super fit people got injured really quickly.
Yeah.
Like snapping their ankles and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy, wasn't it? I remember turning up. I don't know if it was the same for you. I was 18 because you couldn't join. You couldn't join at 16. Then they used to have the juniors, and they stopped all that. So I was in that window between. So I had to wait till I was 18. And I just turned up, and there's some meatheads there. I was like, wow. I'm like, these guys are men, and they look big, muscular, fit.
Yeah.
And they were gone with him. Like, and then the one unassuming guys you'd never know just won't leave all the way there to the end.
Yeah.
And those guys, the ones that stayed in and became sergeant majors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's funny how
you just
it
think,
works.
they don't look like what I think a paratrooper's going to look like.
Right.
10 years later, they do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They've been schooled in the school of hard knocks.
Yeah. It is funny. And I get a lot of people, I don't know why, but they message me asking me for fitness advice about joining the Marines. And I'm like, well, I'm not qualified to give you that advice. And there will be someone in the process that will tell you that and give you a training program. But what I will say is you need to work on your mental toughness. And I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
Like maybe spend a bit of time in the cold, in the wet, and, you know, go 24 hours without eating. I don't know how to do it. I don't have any sort of program for it. But mental toughness is, you need to be the guy that can laugh when you've been cold and wet for 4 days and you haven't eaten and you've got blisters on your feet and everyone's crying and whinging around you. You need to be the one that says or does something funny to bring morale up.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter how fit you are in those scenarios. No one cares how fast you can run a mile in, because it's irrelevant. You need to be able to just bring your morale up first and then everyone else's.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I mean, he told me all about that side of life. And I went back to the career centre on the Monday, spoke to the Royal Marine recruiter, and I just remember watching this recruitment video, and like it blew my mind.
Yeah, did it click straight away? It's like,
even now I'm getting goosebumps. Like these guys, they were like flying up to the beach in these, I'll call them speedboats, like raiding craft. Boom, and they're hitting it, and they're running off, and then they're in the jungle up to their chest in water, patrolling, covered in cam cream. Then they're in the Arctic with these massive bargains on, skiing. And I'm like, what the hell? Who are these guys? Jump faster up into helicopters and stuff. And I'm like, I want to join this.
Yeah.
And he gave me all the paperwork. I went back, got it all signed up, submitted it, went back to school, did the exams. Like I said, did well, could have went on to college. But that was it. I'm like, this is all I want to do in my life now, is see if I can do what's required of me to earn this green beret. And, you know, it was 1999 I left school. So the old dial-up internet came in. So I had a little bit of access where I could do some research and find out more about the Royal Marines. And the more I found out, the more it just blew my mind. I'm like, wow, these guys have been around since 1664. They've done this, done that, battle honours here, there, everywhere. You know, even like the attrition rate like blew my mind.
I love that. I love the fact that hardly anyone got through and people were dropping off.
I know. And
yeah.
I mean, we can talk about it a little bit later if we cover training, but I used to look at that and it was like I stole a bit of their soul. Like I would watch people, you'd all be lined up in 3 ranks, and I remember, and you'd be getting thrashed and this, and you knew someone was going to quit. And in my mind, I'd be like, don't let it be you, Mark, don't let it be you. And then someone would quit. And I wouldn't do it like externally, but internally I'd be smiling like, yes, there goes another one. And it's almost like I got stronger every time someone quit.
Like the Highlander.
Yeah, the quickening, like I steal their power, yeah. And
tell us about the training then. I love. I'm obviously served in the military, and I'm still in the military now. Actually, as I told you before, I re-qualified as a paratrooper age 45 and as a reservist.
Yeah.
And I did like 11 weekends, and then the 2.5 weeks at depot as a Joe. And well, I was a Joe, but then obviously I'm 15 years old and some of the training team. So within a few days, I was with the team, having brews in the office and kind of, assisting and giving a bit of a bridge between the recruits and the staff. And I absolutely loved it. And I'm a real enthusiast, and I love anything. I love finding out about all the different regiments, and obviously love about the Marines as well, because they're obviously an elite force. But they're very different, because you hear people say, "Oh, who's the best, the Marines or the Paras?" Like, they're totally different. No. You have a totally different product at the end, but it's like a rebranding of the same mindset. But because you ask the Paras who's the best, you ask the Marines who's the best. Obviously, you know what the answers are going to be. However, they're both fantastic. Yeah. They're both very different cultures, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do you know many paratroopers?
A couple. I never really worked with any of you guys.
Yeah, you didn't back then. Now there's a lot more with SFSG.
Yeah.
So, and there's a bit more crossover, which is good.
There is, yeah.
They're quite isolated, the Marines, weren't they, before? So everything, the juniors, seniors, everything was done like within their own.
And even our officers train at the same place.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no separation with that. We do everything together. Lympstone is literally the hub for training, command courses, officer training.
What they did, when I first got to battalion in 1995, we were based at Dover, they used to always have 2 Royal Marine officers, single pips, second lieutenants, as their first posting, coming to the parachute regiment.
Oh, really?
And they were, because when we went there, we was on the AMFL roll, which was the Arctic roll. So I went to Norway 3 times. And obviously, when we got there, it was all Royal Marine instructors. They were the ones that were and that's their thing, isn't it? Those guys, you're going to claim to be as seasoned as you guys, because you're on it all the time, aren't you?
Yeah.
We just rotated through on it. But those second lieutenants had the time of their lives. They got so much shit, obviously.
No, I bet.
Second lieutenants get shit anyway in the parachute regiment, regardless.
Did they?
And you have to be strong. Yeah, you have to be really strong, because they'll get some big, hairy-arsed full screw that's just, or Lance Jack or Senior Tom who's been in 10 years, just, there's a pecking order, isn't there?
Yes.
So you have to be strong and assert yourself. But those guys did brilliantly. They loved it. I think they had a great time when they were there.
Nice.
But again, very similar. They gained a lot of respect as well.
Yeah.
So
I think the mindsets are very similar.
Yeah.
Because I think the most I ever actually worked with Paras was going through rehab.
Okay.
After I was injured. So, I was the UK's first triple amputee, and the second one was from 2 Para. A lad called Tom Neathway, lives in Worcester.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to him for years. And honestly, you couldn't make it up, really. Like, you got the only 2 triple amputees for a couple months in rehab were Para and a bootneck. And I'm like, this is going to be a lot of fun. And we were in the same room together.
Were you?
Yeah.
Did you bond like that straight away?
We did, actually.
Yeah.
I think because of the difficult time we were both going through.
Oh, but it must have been.
But I found out a lot. I didn't understand. So Tom came in as a lance corporal.
Yeah.
He left rehab as a sergeant. And I'm like, how have you been promoted twice in rehab? I don't get that. And then I was asking him, what's his job? Oh, I'm a PTI, I'm a sniper. I'm like, how can you be a PTI and a sniper?
Yeah, it works differently. So you just do the courses.
Yeah,
so,
I've found that out.
Yeah, I did my like with the Marines. If you go PTI,
you're PTI for life.
Yeah, but because there's different levels. It's changed somewhat from when I was initially in. But used to be broken into 3 stages: 3s, 2s, and 1s. Your PTI course. So you do your 3s, which means you're qualified to teach trained soldiers. You did your 2s, you're qualified to teach recruits. And when you did your 1s, you went to PT Corps, as Coach Mike Chadwick did.
Yeah.
So he actually went to depot as a full screw as a paratrooper in the depot, cap trick, and then transferred to his 1s, and then you change your cap badge then.
Got it.
So that's how it works then. So you can do your 3s and 2s, and then you've got those guys knocking about the battalions, just helping out with PT when needed. And you can do your sniper course, and then you can, you just got a badge. So you know what I mean. So you might not even be a sniper in D Company. It was they used to go into the patrols platoons. Again, it might have changed since, but that's how it was when I was in. So yeah, it's just another badge.
Yeah, I think that I actually like that, because I remember coming towards the end of training, and I didn't really know how any of this worked. And when I started learning about all these different SQs you could get, like, sniper, heavy weapons, PTI, I remember sitting there thinking, right, I want to do this, and this, because I wanted to be all round. And then when I found out, well, you can't. Literally, the way it works for us is you go PTI, you do your 3s, your 2s, your 1s, and then each course you do, you'd do I think in the PTI world, you have to do a junior command course to be a corporal before you can go, and they change it all the time. And then you do another command course to be a sergeant before you can do the 2s, etc. And I'm like, oh, so you're locked in to your SQ for life, and you pretty much are. I think you can get out early and change, but there's not as much variety. You can't do several different things.
No, that's the thing with the Marines, isn't it? That I don't know if it's changed somewhat, but I know you could go to you don't call it battalion, you call it to unit, don't you? And then you go, right, you're a chef, you're a driver.
And that's it for life.
And that's great, but I think you've probably got a really overqualified driver or an overqualified chef.
Exactly.
Someone that's gone through flipping commando training centre and become a Royal Marine. And then you find some guys that were quite disheartened with that and they get out, and that's a real shame. But if they change it now, so like your first 2 years, you just go to a rifle company or something, and then you do it.
They used to do that.
They need to that if not, because...
They used to do that. It was literally out of training. You were general duties, and then you would either get, if you didn't express any interest, you get pinged and fill a number, or because they've got all the JPA and computers now, but it used to be on paper, didn't it? Then you would put in a request for what you wanted to do, and then if there was a place, if your boss was decent, then you could do it. If not, you just pretty much had to suck it up and do whatever they told you. But the great thing about the Corps is that it doesn't matter what your qualification is, your primary role is always as a general duty soldier, as infantry. So that's appealing about it. I know in the army, if you joined the catering corps, for example, you'd probably never pick a rifle up again for the rest of your career.
But then that's in a way, that's both are good but in different ways, isn't they? Because then you've got like a chef that just wants to do that, and then the paratroopers can do the paratrooper stuff, jump out of planes and bayonet people in the faces, rather than cooking eggs. So do you mind? I'm interested to find out a little about your training, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about the operation that you went on, and obviously Afghan a little bit, if that's all right.
So joined in February 2001. 64 of us to begin with. I was the second youngest in the troop.
64. Do you mind telling us what the stats were at the end? Can you remember what
I think at the end there was 16 of us, but only 12 were originals that made it through in one go.
12. It's crazy, isn't it? When you look at the stats of the old numbers, that's why it's so expensive to train a Royal Marine or a paratrooper, because so few of them get through, and then you're having to pay for the, for all the others, for the churn.
It's ridiculously expensive.
Was there a time within the training where you was like, I'm not sure I can do this, or was you totally at every stage like, I've got this?
No, pretty much every day I was like, this is shit. I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. What you
don't realise is how shit it is. Like
it's terrible, mate.
It's the best thing and the worst thing ever. My son's interested. He wants to join the parachute regiment. So I thought that's great. I haven't tried to encourage him, but I've tried to manage his expectations and go, it is the best thing and the worst thing we'll ever do. It's absolutely fucking horrendous. And it's so shit, I can't describe how shit it can be. He goes, well, why don't you want me to do it? So I'm not. I'm trying to manage your expectations because I want you to do it. And would you understand, like, you've never been cold until you've been army or military cold, have you?
No.
First day on exercise, you're on stag, you think you're going to die. You've never been so cold. It was snow. It's snow down. I was like, oh my God, am I going to survive the flipping night? And you do. You can get a lot colder than you think you can, can't you?
But it's just, the whole thing for me was just shite. It was just,
you love getting wet as well, don't they, Marines? Love it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You go on a 4 or 5 day exercise, the first thing they do is throw you in a river and go get your heads under, and you're like, brilliant. So now I've got to survive. And do you guys do wet and dry routine?
Yeah, we do.
It's gopping.
I don't think to the extent that you guys probably do though, because that is you get wet. If you're deploying and you're in the landing craft, what's the correct name for them?
which there's a couple of raiding craft, Raiders.
Like you don't just go. They don't just put you straight into the sand and you just jump off into the dry bit.
No, they'll stop 10 meters back and be like, jump in the water.
Your weapon's wet, or you've just fucking everything's wet straight away from the. And then if you don't, so your weapon, you're on your back foot straight away, aren't you? You've got to be a really good soldier to operate in the wet.
Yeah.
Because your weapon's going to jam. You're no good to anyone.
Everything.
You're going to go down. Your feet are going to get wet.
Yeah.
So you're going to be wet from the off.
Exactly, and that's when, being super fit doesn't mean anything.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
That's just one element. It's like 10% of the whole thing, isn't it? However, you still need to be super fit as well, don't you?
You do.
That's one of the really important branches.
But I mean, I would describe training for me as what I imagine it feels like to drink from a fire hose. Just an overwhelming amount of information and stuff, and you run everywhere. It's so bad for you, really. Like, you got like 3.5 minutes to eat your lunch, and you've got to run back, get changed, do the next one, and you haven't even finished chewing your food, and you're on to the next training period. And as I was so young, and it was the first time I've been away from home, there was that little boy in me going, I want to go home. I only live 45 minutes away as well, so it was so tempting. It was so tempting, but I don't know what it was. Right, I don't know if you've ever been to Lympstone. But it's got its own independent train station. So you get an exit at St. David's, wherever you come from in the country, then you get on this little bone rattler, and it takes you to Lympstone, and it stops. The train station is on the bottom field where the assault course is. And I don't know how or why I did this. I didn't do it intentionally. But every time I felt like quitting, I imagined myself sat on the train and looking at the assault course and watching all the other troops running around. And the absolute gut-wrenching feeling when I'd hear that, like the whistle of the train, and the wheels start to go ch, ch, instant regret. I knew it. I knew that's how I'd feel.
And that must be how they all feel when they leave.
Yeah. And then I'd be home in 45 minutes time and have to tell my family that I quit and I wasn't good enough, and then figure out, because I had no plan B. I didn't know what I was going to do. How could I go back to my parents' house at 18 and go, right, now what do I do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I developed this scenario in my head. And I could feel it. I could feel the regret the minute that train moved away that I would feel if I quit. And that dragged me through a lot.
Negative reinforcement, like to push you forwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and that's what kept me going, as well as a lot of support from some of the older guys and some friends that I made, and, the humor that you develop in there. And then I just broke the whole process down, sometimes into monthly chunks, sometimes weekly.
You've got to have sometimes process like 9 months or it's 8 months or whatever it is.
No, it's way too big a thing to process. And then some days, if you had like 7 or 8 training periods, I'd just break it down into one hour at a time.
Yeah, and meals. That'll help. Meals, and then you're up again in the morning brushing your teeth, another day's gone.
Yeah.
Meal at a time, a lesson at a time.
Just do
once
one
PT
bit.
was out the way, it's classrooms. Sam.
Yeah. One bit at a time, and then it still takes a long time, but eventually you get there, and before you know it, you've done all the hard stuff. You're marching around in your blues, getting ready for a pass out parade, ready to start your 22-year career, or so you think.
Yeah. Yeah, until you think so. So you was in loving the Marines. What unit did you go to?
My first unit was pool.
Yeah.
Then I was only for a couple months. Then I went to Royal Marines headquarters in Plymouth. Yeah. So I was back home. And I actually finished my training in October 2001, so right after 9/11.
Yeah.
So almost immediately got trained to go on Operation Jacana in 2002. And, I was 18 at the time, very keen, very dumb.
Excited, get out.
Yeah, because you don't really know what it's all about, do you? And that got scaled back quite a lot. I think it became more of an SF thing, like lads in there doing recce's more than it was boots on the ground, kicking doors and stuff. So I was a little bit disappointed in that. Went to Norway, did a little bit of boxing, went to America, trained with the Americans and some Allied forces. And then in 2003, Iraq came around. So I deployed to Iraq on Operation Tell It 1 in March 2003.
Did you guys get to see any action over there, or were they all...
I personally didn't.
Yeah.
We sat in Kuwait for a little while, and I was on that wave that went over the Kuwaiti-Iraqi border. That was all on the TV.
They'd all given up by that point.
And that's what I noticed, you know, when you want to talk about the difference between...
Everyone was like gagging for it, weren't they?
Yeah, and everyone just surrendered and gave up. I was in a trench when these missiles were going over with like my full NBC suit on. That was just terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, just not knowing, just watching these missiles go over, landing close by, because what they were saying with the chemical weapons were like colourless and odourless, and you just literally had to sit there and wait to feel your lungs start to bubble away.
Did you have your NBC
everything
on?
Yeah, sat in a desert in a...
That's not Ali, is it?
No, just sweating, like looking through the eyes of these things at my mate, just terrified, looking for some sort of... Because it's not like you weren't expecting like a brown liquid to start falling around you. It's odourless and colourless. So you never knew, you know, if these chemicals were coming out of these warheads, you wouldn't have a clue. So you just sat there waiting. It was just terrifying for weeks on end sometimes. But in terms of firefights, I didn't have a single one.
No.
A couple of my friends did. They went up to the palace and the oil fields and did that. I actually attached myself to an army field hospital as QRF for their ambulances and force protection to try my best to see something.
Yeah.
But still nothing.
No, you're still on the ground, still actually experiencing being on operations when you see the whole beast in action.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole big coordinated event, isn't it? The military is just one thing, and it's linked in with other militaries as well, you know, and you're seeing the whole thing in motion, aren't you, at that stage? Yeah. Regardless of whether you've had rounds down the range or not. So it's still experience, isn't it? Yeah.
But I came back from there unscathed. Yeah. And then I actually left the Marines after 5 years. I was in a relationship at the time, and my partner got pregnant. So my eldest daughter was born in 2005. So I thought, okay, if I put my notice in now, because in that first 5 years, you know, I got a Green Beret, done Norway, done exercise, been to Iraq, got a medal, cool.
It's all the same. A lot of it's the same stuff after that, isn't it? Once
it's rinse and repeat, isn't it? Yeah. And you know, I did a lot in those 5 years, but I thought I was young enough, 21, 22, to be able to start a new career, maybe in the police or the fire brigade or something. So I left. Things didn't go the way I thought they were going to go. We separated. I ended up going to South Africa and retraining as a bodyguard for 6 weeks. Came home from there, was working as a nightclub doorman, trying to earn some cash to survive because I was living on a friend's sofa at the time. And it was 2006, and it was the time when the SIA became a thing, and they were trying to regulate like the security industry.
Yeah, I remember when that, all the badges and the extra qualifications. Yeah, thugs off the door apparently.
This is what I was going to say. They were trying to sweep all the old tattooed, steroid thugs and bullies off the doors. So the police were coming down quite hard on the nightclub world, and I'm not a bully. You know, I was very proud of how I could talk my way out of most situations until talking was no longer an option. But I just seemed to always be in trouble. You know what I mean? And to the point where, this sounds exaggerated, but someone could punch me in the face and I'd get in trouble for hurting their knuckles with my jaw. It was ridiculous. And I sat there one day at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning in my bed, just getting undressed, ready to go to sleep. And I'm like, what's happened to my life? Like, I've gone from being an elite Royal Marines commando, surrounded by these really cool guys that have got my back and will do anything for me, to getting spat on and punched and kicked by drunks every weekend, where I didn't feel like really anyone had my back. And I was sleeping on a mate's sofa most of the time. So I was like, this isn't going to work for me. You know, so I ended up rejoining the Marines in early 2007. I think it was May that I went down. I'd only been out for about a year. So
You'd only been out 1 year.
Yeah, no need to go through Livingston again.
Was there much retraining needed or any?
APWT, BFT, BST.
Do you have to go to the commando training centre for that? Or
yeah, I mean, you could have done it all in a day, but they spread it out over 4 weeks. So I went up 1 week and did a fitness test. Yeah. Next week, weapon handling and shooting test. Next week, I think there's a swimming test. Then the week after, they put me in the NBC chamber. I don't know if you have to do that. I don't ever remember that being mandatory yearly testing, but they did it anyway. Gassed me out with some CS gas. And then 4 weeks later, I was back in uniform. You know, I went to 40 Commando in Taunton, and they were next on the rotation to go to Afghanistan because that had taken precedence then. And so I went straight into pre-deployment training. And I knew from there, from the pre-deployment training compared to the stuff I'd done before, that it was going to be different. You know,
was you excited about that, or was you apprehensive, or both?
I would say both, but more excited than apprehensive.
Yeah.
You know, I really felt I needed a tour. I needed to get away because
An itch that you needed to scratch, was it?
And I needed to sort my life out.
Yeah.
Because it was just, nothing was smooth. Everything was chaotic in my life. And I really needed to sort it out. So I thought, okay, 6 months away, earn some money, bank some money, because I was completely brassic to that point. Reprioritize, because those first 5 years, I didn't really take my career seriously. Like a lot of lads back then, it was all drinking, partying, going out, having
that's
fun.
what it's like when you're young, isn't it?
I didn't really care about getting promoted or anything like this, but I was like, right now, I got a little folder and everything, and I started planning my career out and mapping, oh, I want to do this. I was going to come back, and when I came back from Afghanistan, I thought, okay, I'm going to have a bit of experience here. I'm going to volunteer for everything out there, like leadership-wise. Come back, try and get promoted, then figure out what kind of direction I want to take my career in, and then really actually be proactive with it, rather than, and the old computer system had came in and JPA, so you could be more proactive. Like prior to that, I used to give in bits of paper with requests to my sergeant major.
Never get to anyone.
And I'm sure I'd just turn my back, he'd rip it up and throw it in the bin, because I'd never get anything that I went in for. But now this computer system, the JPA was up and running. I think it went straight to naval manning, so it went past your boss straight to the people that made the decisions. So I thought I can be more proactive. So I started planning my career about what it was that I wanted to do. Wanted to volunteer for as much as I could while I was out there and test myself and prove myself to my superiors, and then just make the most of the time that I had out there. You know, but we hit a roadblock halfway through the tour. I was second in command of a section of lads leading a foot patrol on Christmas Eve, 2007, and so prior to Christmas Eve, from September, we deployed on September 7th, and I was injured on Christmas Eve. For the 3 months prior to me being injured, we had been out in Helmand, foot patrolling, conducting missions, and we had objectives and that kind of stuff, and we had done really well. No one that I was working with had been injured or killed, so morale was pretty high within our company and within the fob that we were working out of. And on Christmas Eve, we got tasked with a routine foot patrol where, and I was gonna say it's funny, it's not funny, but it's very, very basic, this patrol, you know, compared to what we had done. And in essence, all we were doing was getting 2 groups of 8 men, going out the back door of camp, one go north, one go south, patrol round and come in the front door, and that was it. It was like a
Bucksy Christmas Eve.
Just keep momentum up, stretch your legs, lads, you know, go out, do your thing. So we did that, but on the way back into camp, my section were on the high ground, on something we called the North Fort. So we were given overwatch for the other section. They were going to go back up the incline into the front entrance of camp, get behind the HESCO barrier, and then give us some cover so we can come off this high feature. And when we were up there was no traditional like cover, no buildings, no walls, no trees, nothing, because we were on like a ridge line. But there was this bowl in the ground in front of me. The section commander had taken his half off and given them their fire positions. And I thought, okay, you know, and it's so obvious when you look back, when you're older and wiser, but I thought, I'm 24 at the time, I thought, okay, this is the best form of cover that we got. We're getting this little bowl in the ground, get on our stomachs, we're on the high ground. If anyone's looking up, they're going to struggle to see us, which means they're probably going to struggle to engage us. So this is the best option we have given our terrain. So we jumped in, the lads all started taking their fire positions. I stood back for a little bit to observe, make sure things were going right, and we were tight defensively in case there was any sort of small arm attack or anything like that. And when they were happy and I was happy, I started walking over towards the position that I selected for myself. And as I went to get onto my stomach, I put my right knee on the ground and knelt on and detonated an improvised explosive device, which instantly ripped off both of my legs and my right arm.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So what was your immediate, was you knocked unconscious from that, or can you remember?
I remember everything.
Really? What can you remember?
So initially, if you know, the terrain, imagine the terrain is very sandy and dusty. So initially when this thing exploded, there was a huge dust cloud created. So I couldn't see anything, but I could hear everyone around me shouting, you know, trying to figure out what was going on, making sure everyone was okay. But I didn't know what I had done. I wasn't in any pain. You know, my adrenaline had spiked. No pain. Wow. Adrenaline had spiked. My brain was rattling around in my head, and my initial thought was, we're under attack. Someone's fired a mortar or an RPG on our position. It's exploded nearby. We need to find out where this attack came from and neutralize it.
Is that just like an instant thought that just pops up?
Yeah. So where I was positioned and where I was facing, I knew behind me, about 600 meters to my rear, down beneath me, was like a small rectangular forestry block, and everything else around that area was flat mud fields.
So you assumed.
So instantly I'm like, right, that's where someone's going to have done it, going to have attacked from. So in my mind, I was like saying to myself, turn around, Mark, ID the enemy, start shooting. When the lads see that you're shooting, they'll start shooting. We had a HMG in camp about 100 meters away. Someone would have manned that, saw where we were aiming, and then probably tore this forest in half. So I'm saying to myself in my mind, turn around, turn around, turn around. And after about 5 times of saying it, even though I couldn't see anything because there was this huge dust cloud created from the explosion, even though I couldn't see what was going on, I knew that my body wasn't doing what my mind was telling it. It just felt wrong. So in all the chaos, you know, a million things go through your mind. You're like, what am I going to do? I just wait. You know, I'll wait for the dust cloud to settle. I can see what's going on then, get a better understanding of the situation, make some calls on the ground, and then figure this thing out. So it got to about chest height, and I look around, I can't see anybody. I think all the lads have been kind of blasted out of the area. So I carried on waiting. The dust cloud got about 6 inches from the ground, hit the ground, and then disappeared. And that was when, you know, I looked down to where my legs should have been and saw that they had both been almost completely ripped off traumatically from the knees down. You know, it's a very, very surreal experience. It's you know, your brain struggles to process what it is that it's looking at, and then I think, coupled with the fact that I wasn't in any pain, none of it seemed real. You know, it's almost like a dream, and I probably looked at where my legs should have been for about 3 or 4 seconds and instantly snapped out of it because I thought about the rest of the team. And so I carried on looking around. I looked over my right shoulder, and as I did, I saw the section commander, Corporal Sean Helsby. We had been through training together in 2001, so I knew him quite well. And his eyes were like, and all the colour had drained from his face, so he was clearly in a state of shock. Yeah. So I'm trying to piece it all together. I'm like, what did I look at here? Why does he look so shocked? What's happening? So I went to look back to my legs, and I got to about the 3 o'clock position, and that's when I saw my arm like laying in the sand. It was still attached to my body, but from my bicep to my wrist, the whole thing had been ripped open. The bones in the upper and lower part of my arm were both completely shattered. My hand was in pretty good order, and I don't know why, but I just kind of picked my hand up, held it in front of my face, moved it around a little bit, and then just dropped it into the sand and just screamed. Like, just let out this massive scream of frustration as I realised in that moment, you know, we weren't under attack. I was the guy that stood on and detonated the improvised explosive device. Now, it's funny because a lot of people, I think, would assume your first thoughts and feelings would be fear, you know, fear of death, panic, worry, and all those kind of things. But that wasn't my experience. My experience was shame and guilt and anger.
Why?
Because I'd endangered 7 other men.
Really?
Yeah. Because I thought, if there is like a small arms follow-up attack here, where people come over the hills with AK-47s, people are going to die and it's my fault because they're going to be trying to rescue me. You know what I mean? And they're vulnerable. I also thought straight back to my daughter, she wasn't even 2 years old at the time, thinking, if I get out of here, and I didn't really have a good relationship with her anyway because I didn't get on with her mum, but if I get out of here, I'll have no relationship with her because she won't want to know a guy who's got no legs and one arm. I can't pick her up from school because that might lead to her getting bullied and picked on. I don't want to put that on her and give her a hard life. So if I do survive this, what will my life be like? And, you know, I was in a relationship with Becky, who's my wife now. We'd only been together for a year. She lives in London, had just finished university and was 21 years old. I'm thinking, well, she's not going to stick around. And if she does, I'm going to burden her with life as a carer. And it sounds like you sit there thinking, what would you think of all these things? And this isn't like 7 or 8 seconds that this was going through my head.
Yeah.
And I just felt stupid because we had these conversations before, right? And, you know, lads in your battalions now probably had the same thing. We go toe to toe with anybody. Do you know what I mean? Firefights, fist fights, whatever it is. But IEDs, it's just...
It's the worst nightmare of a soldier, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the worst
and
nightmare.
I actually even remember saying in a conversation, you got to be pretty dumb to stand on an IED because the ground sign of digging one in the terrain we were operating in would be very obvious. But I think what happened in this scenario, because we're in this bowl, where they had been dug in and it had rained at night, it had smoothed all the area out and there was no ground sign. Do you know what I mean? To me, it would have been like digging up a tarmac road. You'd see like the massive scarring in the ground and, oh, that's obvious that someone's dug in there, but that wasn't the case at all. You know, but I still felt pretty stupid for being the guy that had done it.
Really? Yeah,
and I knew as well, you know, now these guys are going to have to come rushing in here to try and save me and put their own lives at risk. You know, and I didn't really want to put that responsibility on anybody. But...
Did you start feeling pain at any stage?
Yeah, after a little while it started to sting.
Did it sting?
Yeah,
or?
It started to... It's like an unbelievably intense pins and needles. Like it's I wouldn't say pain as such, just massive discomfort, like irritating discomfort, like numbness, tingling, but at an unbelievable level that you couldn't ever experience.
Did that last for a long time as well?
Pretty much to the minute I passed out, it lasted.
Yeah. And then what happens? So you passed out, and then what's next?
No, I didn't pass out then. So the lads coordinated the Kazivac.
They did a good job to
unbelievable,
get you sorted.
mate, unbelievable.
Three limbs. I mean, you could have bled out. You can bleed out with one limb. You know.
So I've read the report that the American Special Forces guys we were working with wrote when they cleared the area. There were 6 or maybe 7 other IEDs in that bowl that we're in. So we'd walked all over them. Right, and they were there and they had been uncovered by the blast. The hole I was in was, I think, 12 feet deep by 15 feet around, and we're on high ground. It's like the worst scenario you could ever imagine for evacuating somebody. Plus, you've got the whole thing of, you know, we were trained not to go running in to help a casualty, to override every human emotion you've got when you see your friend there dying because of the risk that you pose to them and to yourself. So to be able to override those emotions and control them, I don't know how difficult that was for them, but they did it perfectly. And I had a guy on the comms calling in the Kazivac. I had a 19-year-old in his belly with a bayonet prodding the ground, clearing the safe route. I had another guy coordinating all around defense in case there was a follow-up attack. And because of that, the medic got out of camp and he got to me very quickly. Put tourniquets on all 3 of my limbs, gave me morphine, evacuated me out of that minefield, got me in a vehicle, got me to the HLS, and the last thing I remember is the Chinook landing, and then the sandstorm that it created, and the propeller blade, the heat from the exhausts.
Do you think you passed out them in the kind of a, you know that you're safe and you're in good hands now, and there's nothing that you can?
No, I don't think it was that.
Just your body just shut down at that point.
I think it was shut down.
Yeah.
It was. It's a very strange feeling. It's, imagine the TARDIS you've ever been, and then multiply that by 10,000. It's like pure exhaustion, and you can almost feel. It sounds a bit maybe airy fairy, but you can almost feel your soul leaving your body, like from pure exhaustion. but you're relaxed. You're almost like happy because you're so tired. You're just like, oh, this is cool. I'm falling asleep now. Good, because I'm exhausted. And that's what it felt like when I blacked out.
It's you close to death, probably, isn't it?
As close as you could probably get. Yeah.
Wow.
It was quite calm and peaceful, that part of it. Bizarrely, there's not a panic or anything like that. I didn't see any white lights or any of that kind of stuff, but I just remember feeling relaxed and at peace.
Wow. And then when you woke up, you was obviously in the hospital at that stage, then were you? And
yeah, the 28th of December, I think, was when I initially first woke up in Birmingham.
How long was that after the
4 days?
Oh, so you were out for
Yeah, I got home on Christmas Day.
Was that a coma then?
I was in a medically induced coma because of the infections and the pain and all that kind of stuff. So they just knocked me out, and obviously they did surgery on me in Afghanistan. Once they revived me on the back of the helicopter, they took me to Camp Bastion and did surgery in the field hospital, because these were not surgical amputations. Like, I was a mess, so they had to tidy everything up as best they could before they sent me home. And then when they got me home Christmas Day, I was in a coma for 3 days, and then they gradually reduced the medication to bring me out of that coma, and then that first week in intensive care, they did that a little bit more every day, until by day 7 I had a full understanding of my situation. Because initially I thought I just lost some fingers and toes.
Well, I just couldn't remember anything.
Yeah, and I was on so many drugs. Everything was, I was hallucinating a lot and struggling to take it all in. And then by day 7, I had a complete understanding that I'd lost both legs above the knee and my right arm above my elbow. And then they kind of booted me out of ITU upstairs in the hospital to the burns and plastics ward, to like a single man room where I was to, start the long road to recovery.
Wow, that sounds absolutely horrendous.
It was.
Yeah.
It was intense.
And then obviously the rehab as well. I mean, because I've been following you on social media for quite some time, and you are the most positive person I've ever come across, in spite of everything that's happened to you. So I'm not imagining you were like that off the bat after the incident. You must have had some dark times, and then worked your way through that. What was that like with the rehab immediately afterwards?
So I'll talk about the dark times first. I think that's quite important, because you're right, you can't just brush over it and it appears like you woke up in the morning, both legs missing, your arms missing. All right, cool. Let's crack on with the plan. That's not the way it is. I got the almost cliche lecture from the doctor about 3.5 weeks after I was injured, saying, you're in a wheelchair for life. This gentleman was an amputation specialist. This is January 2008. He had been in that field for 33 years at that point, and he'd never met anybody who had lost one leg above the knee that had any success using prosthetics, because they were... Right.
So they thought you're just going to be like actually wheelchair, no walking about or anything again.
Yeah, because he never met anyone with one leg missing above the knee. It's very different above the knee to below the knee, but I'd lost both my legs above the knee and my dominant arm above the elbow.
So both of your amputations are above the knee as well?
Yeah, I lost my dominant arm above my elbow. Every joint you get is like a gift. It's like a bonus. It makes it easier. And I'd lost both knees and an elbow. So the guy was like, you've got no chance.
How do you even walk on prosthetics then with no knees? It must be using
glutes, core, lower back,
So you
hips.
have to totally learn to... Yeah. I'd imagine it doesn't represent walking from what your body's doing in any way, similar to what you were doing before.
No, completely different.
How did that go then?
It's horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. And I started in hospital. I started doing basic physiotherapy because, I'd sit up in bed, and because I didn't have any legs and no anchor points, would just like roll over like a weeble.
Yeah, you never even...
It took me an hour, 45 minutes the first time I tried to get into a wheelchair from a bed, sweating like profusely because of the energy it took. I only had, if you can see the scar on my hand, so shrapnel tore my hand open, so I only had 2 fingers to play with.
And that's your only hand you got as well?
Yeah. And relearned to do everything from brushing my teeth to eating and shaving and writing.
So frustrating. And I mean, having the Royal Marine mindset though, that must have come into full effect with your rehab. And to be tested, I'd imagine that's got to be the worst thing
Do you know what
you've
it was,
ever been through in any degree by times 10.
Do you know what? when I was in hospital, I started thinking back. You know, when I said that when I got dial-up internet and I started looking into like the Royal Marines and their history, when I was in hospital, I remember thinking about some of the things that I read, some of the stuff I'd learned in my training about Royal Marines history, and some of the stuff that I'd learned after. And I remember thinking, it was about 4 weeks into my recovery, I remember thinking, I've never heard about anybody since 1664 that's been remembered for letting the team down and quitting when things got tough. So I was like, well, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm just going to take my values and my standards that were instilled in me in training and apply them to rehab. And about a week after that, I got a visit from the Commandant General and the Corps RSM, the most senior RSM in the Marines. And before he was the Corps RSM, this gentleman, he was the RSM of Stonehouse Barracks, or Royal Marines headquarters, in 2002, 2003, when I was a young Marine. And he charged me. He brought me in. I got on a charge for fighting when I was out drinking.
Like you do.
Yeah. But he hated it if people cut the linings out of their berets. And he could tell, when I stood in front of him with my heels together, he could tell that I had no lining in my beret. So I remember he took it off me, pinned it to his board, and then said, you need to go into town now, get another one, you got an hour. Ran back with this horrendously unshaped beret on my head. And that was the last of it. But I hadn't seen him since, and he'd been promoted. And I was still like a young nobody. You know, I wouldn't have any reason to think why this guy would remember me being such a senior in the Royal Marines. But when he came to visit me, he brought me a beret. And he went, I remember when I took your one off you in 2002. And that blew my mind. And I'm like, wow, like this really is like a family, no matter, I know there's ranks and everything, and there's a reason for that, and it's very important. But in a scenario like this, to remember me, just some young gobshite Marine who was getting charged for messing up, he remembered that he had took my beret off me, and he must have took hundreds off of the lads. And to then go and buy me another one to bring it back, gave me such a boost. And I'm like, right, this is it. When I get to rehab now, I'm showing the world what it means to be a Royal Marine and what we're about.
Amazing.
And I'm going to go just trash it, and just give me any task they give me, I'm just going to trash it and run through it and just change the system.
And when did you start seeing the light a little bit and things start to pick up? And because I know you're heavily into jiu-jitsu and that you're a jiu-jitsu purple belt. And for anyone that doesn't know about Brazilian jiu-jitsu, just to get a blue belt, not just a blue belt, because the blue belt is a big deal. You know, you're taking out any normal black belt. Right. If they grab hold of you, they're taking anyone out, aren't they? You know, when it comes to the grappling side of stuff. And to get a purple belt is a big deal. And you started all of that post accident?
Yeah. So,
and you know, it's Reorg, isn't it? That is the charity that you're working with now, which is was it started by a Royal Marine as well, Sam?
Yes, Sam Sheriff.
Sam Sheriff, who's doing great things.
It's amazing.
Flying the flag for the Royal Marines and for jiu-jitsu. And helping as many people along the way as he possibly can. And I've been following him as well. You're all over. There's pictures of you as well, isn't there? On WH Smiths, is there?
Yeah, so Reorg have collaborated with C4, and they've done like a takeover of train stations around the country. So there's giant pictures of me all over the WH Smith stores where they sell the drink. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, the rehab, it sucked. You know, I went into it like I think a lot of people in our situation would go into it with the mindset of, I'm fit, give me the task, get out of my way. I just underestimated the task. It takes 300 to 500% more energy for a double above knee amputee to do anything than an able-bodied person. So the first time I walked a set of parallel bars, which is about 4.5, 5 meters, I was exhausted. And I just knew that this was going to be a lot harder than I'd anticipated. And because I was the UK's first triple amputee, no one had trodden this path before. There had been some double above knee amputees that had gone through, but with both their arms, and it's a completely different world.
Of course, because you can use both your arms for leverage all the time to move around and everything, can't you?
For everything, balance, leverage, everything.
Like you said, just falling off the bed because you've got nothing.
Yeah, using wheelchair, everything. And so I basically had to create the recovery pathway. But the short version of this is, you know, I knew, and I always have known, that if you want to excel at something, the quickest and easiest way to do it is to find someone that's done what you want to do and just ask them for support. And I found a triple amputee in America. He was wheelchair free. He was traveling without carers. He was a full-time prosthetic user. He was surfing, swimming, running. He was doing everything that I wanted to do and was being told that wasn't possible with my injuries. And I saw him online, reached out to him, eventually went over to meet him and his team, went through a 3-week boot camp, no wheelchair, flew to America on my own, wasn't allowed to take anyone with me. It was horrendous, like
physically exhausting,
horrendous,
and
and I don't mind admitting, terrifying. Like I couldn't even navigate a room without being in extreme pain and needing to sit down and being out of breath and tired and sore and covered in blisters. And now I had to travel to the other side of the world on my own, navigating airports, to meet with strangers who I was hoping could help me but wasn't sure. And but I just thought, fuck it, you know, I need to go over there and learn from someone, because it was like wading through treacle going through rehab here, because everything was just an obstacle. And I went over there, and again, short version of this story is they whipped my ass for 3 weeks solid, and I haven't used a wheelchair since the 9th of June 2009, since the day I flew over there.
Wow. So by the time you'd left, you were out the wheelchair?
The day I left the UK was the 9th of June 2009, and I never used a wheelchair since. And I'm not, you know, we are glossing over it, but it was absolutely horrendous. And what I compare it to, I remember the last day of it, I've been in Texas, I've been riding roller coasters and walking around a theme park for 7 hours. It was 108 degrees. And on the way back to the car, I felt the same way that I felt getting to the end of the 30 miler in commando training.
Yeah.
Like my mind was I was about to laugh or cry. And at every step towards that car was agony, like absolute agony. But it was the last day of a 3-week intense boot camp. And I just saw the car and took every step as it came, passed out in the car when I got there, came home, and haven't used a wheelchair since.
So when you walk, that's amazing, by the way. Well
Thank you.
done. That just shows the type of mindset you've got. So you should have been all over the news for that. Really, that's an amazing story. Was that did you just bimble back in and not really know much about it, or did you get a bit of kind of recognition for what you'd been through and done?
Do you know what I found funny when I was going through rehab is all the things I'd done prior to being injured. So we talked off air about, you know, I used to kickbox, and you know, I was 16 years old beating 34-year-old men at kickboxing, and I joined the Royal Marines and passed out at 18, and we talked about the attrition rate. I had done all these things, and everyone was, you know, when I talk about them, everyone would be like, oh yeah, that's cool, yeah, well done mate, good job, not interested. And then when I lost my legs, if I could blow my own nose, everyone's like, that's amazing, you're so amazing. And I'm like, what? I don't get it. So I would do things, and it's nice, you know, people would say, you know, that's really cool what you're doing. But then I would go to America, and I went AWOL from the military because they told me I couldn't go. I took this massive risk. I put my mind and body through the ringer, and I came back and everyone was like, oh, that's cool, nice one, well done, mate. And I'm like, what? I've literally just broke myself mentally and physically, and now I'm not using a wheelchair, which is like no one else in the world at that time, apart from the guy mentoring me, had done this. In the world. I was the second person in the world to do it. And no one really cared. And I was like a little bit down. And then I'm like, but then if I could, you know, go to the gym and do some bicep curl, I was like, that's amazing, that's great. I'm like, not really. Like, I've got a good arm, I can bicep curl.
I don't think anyone could truly know what you went through, could they? To the extent, obviously.
No. And but I mean, that's why I spend so much time now on social media, like sharing some of the stuff I do, so they get a bit of a better understanding. And I talk about, you know, 300 to 500% more energy. I talk about the mental anguish you go through, and I talk about the cuts, the bruising, that, you know, the whole biomechanics of my body, the things that you can't really see.
Yeah, you're quite open about it as well. You show people you know, your legs, and I remember seeing one, because obviously one's quite tidy, you said, and the other one isn't.
It's a mess, mate.
Yeah,
my left
you
leg's
don't
a
even
mess.
think of that though until you showed us. I was like, wow, yeah, never even considered that. Like, now that's you've got to deal with that every day, haven't you? And surely that must cause pain and discomfort when you're putting your prosthetics on. And even though you're looking and I see you and you're walking around and you look fine, I'm not experiencing every step that you're taking is probably causing stress and pain on the pressure on where the limbs are on the prosthetics. And your whole body and core is, you know, in chaos, trying to kind of figure that out as well. You know?
And then you've got to put in the extra effort of, you know, every morning and evening stretching all that out. Stretching out your back and your hip flexors and all this kind of stuff. And you've got to be more conscious about your diet, because if you put on weight, your legs get fatter, you don't fit in the prosthetics.
Right, of course.
You drink like alcohol, I don't drink, but that that thins your blood, so your legs shrink, so then your legs won't stay on. You've got to almost live like an athlete to a degree to be a full-time prosthetic user. You can't go, nailing McDonald's every day and expect to be able to walk everywhere. You've got to be fit and healthy and proactive with it.
In a peak level of fitness, really, isn't it?
All the time.
So with that as well, I'd imagine, because of the fact that you're missing 3 limbs, I'd imagine your core and your other arm is immensely strong. And because of the fact that you do jiu-jitsu as well, don't you? And can you tell us a little bit about how that works, obviously being a triple amputee and grappling? And how does that work? And what's the first experience you got on to doing it and how you led down that path?
So the first thing is jiu-jitsu is very adaptive, which is the great thing. So obviously there are a lot of things I can't do, but there are a lot of things I can do if you adapt the techniques,
of course,
to suit myself. And then, you figure out what your strengths are. There's a lot of advantages to my situation. Like when I go against an able-bodied person, it throws them. Because where they go, right, I'll grab this and I grab the right arm, they've got nothing to grab. Yeah. They haven't got the right thing. If I just tuck my left arm up and protect my neck, they're a little bit screwed in a way. They're like, I don't know what to do now. And that gives me an opportunity. And where, someone might wrap their leg around your leg to stop you being able to turn in a certain direction, they can't do that to me. So it's taken a long time, but you just got to figure out where your advantages are.
Yeah, your own style, isn't it? And because you still get leverage, I'd imagine, with your legs, and with the other arm to still put you into positions to be able to pin people.
Yeah, and then like this. This is constantly attached to somebody's throat. And when there's an opportunity, I'm just stabbing them in the throat, or in their eye, or making it uncomfortable for them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? This little arm stump, just the little bone, just wriggling around on their throat, and and it's all perfectly legal. I just find out what works for me. And like you're familiar with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or some of the positions. So like if I can clamp the side control, I'm like a little limpet.
You just can't get you off.
No, I weigh 63 kilos without my limbs on. It's 63 kilos sat on your head basically.
Yeah.
And people, you can't do sit-ups. People are just trying to do a sit-up to get you off. They can't do it because
you can't get any leverage, because normally you can unlock a leg or an arm and get some... And push them off using that, or misbalance them to kind of pull around.
I've got these little unique things I can do.
You're locked on.
Like I can use my 2 leg stumps to clamp onto somebody's wrist when their arm's extended, and then armbar them. And people can't normally. If you clamped your thighs around somebody's arm, you got the muscle and fat on your inner thighs. I don't have that. I do. But it's massively reduced. So it's like gripping on with a hand.
Yeah.
And they can't get out. And I'm like, this is great. Like I'm just clamped onto this body and they can't figure it out.
Amazing. So nearly at the end now then, and before we finish, do you want to talk a little bit about reorgs, and what you're doing with the charity and stuff as well? Because it's great, obviously, what you're doing.
So I started training in 2017 when Sam Sheriff, the founder, approached me. He was still in the Marines at the time as a PTI and the head of Royal Marines Unarmed Combat. And I fell in love with it because of its adaptability quite quickly. And then when he left the Marines after his full career of 22 years, it was just a group, if you like, prior to that. Me and a couple of lads convinced him to turn it into a charity because of all the people it was helping. It took him a long time to cave. Like he just wasn't. He wasn't comfortable with it. Like, obviously, when you're a civilian, you got to earn an income, right, and a living. He wasn't comfortable doing that with this thing that he loved.
Oh, he didn't want to, didn't want to make money, any type of money out of it,
So we had to
That's
really...
quite common within martial arts as well. It's something that people need to kind of realise.
Because you've got your passion, right? Yeah. And you're like, well, I shouldn't be earning money from this. I love it. And it's like, well, no, that's the secret. If everyone could do that, everyone would be a lot happier.
It's creating that much value for so many... You create that much value for so many people when you teach martial arts, that it's important that you take care of yourself. Otherwise, you're going to run yourself ragged. You're going to be financially broke, and you're not going to be able to give as much, are you?
No. And the thing I said is, like, I said to him, when you leave, you're never going to have worked as hard in your life as you do when you leave. Like, you don't get Wednesdays off for sport. You don't get half day Friday. It's like, you're going to be working Saturdays. You're going to be working until 10 o'clock at night, because this is the nature of the beast. But we eventually, me and a couple of lads over the course of 6 to 8 months, convinced him like it was okay, and that he was providing so much value and changing so many lives that it would actually be negative if he just left and didn't do it and it
Doing a
died.
disservice to
people
everybody.
would be struggling. So when he did leave and started as an official charity, he asked me to become a trustee, which was really cool. So I jumped on board with that, and that's my role now. I'm a trustee. I kind of do what I can to spread the word, spread the message, train as much as I can. I've competed a few times, may do a few more this year. I just love it, and I compare it to the military in the way that, you know, we talked about earlier. You're constantly failing, constantly learning, constantly getting humbled, going through hardship with people on a similar journey, which creates unique bonds with those people because you're training together, competing together, winning together, losing together, learning together. It creates a relationship close to the military, which is quite unique. So that's what I love about the whole journey. And it just makes you a better person on the mats and off the mats.
Certainly does. Martial arts. It'd be a different world if everyone did martial arts. As I said to you earlier, 1.5% of the population do martial arts.
Small amount.
66 million people in the UK, and about 800,000 of them do martial arts. Imagine if we can even just double that, get it to 3%.
Yeah.
You know, imagine if 10% of the population did martial arts. It'd be a different world you lived in. It'd be different interactions. You don't get bullies. No one that's done martial arts.
But there's values attached to it, right? Like respect, integrity, discipline.
Very similar values to the military, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people cross over quite well, you know, with the military and the martial arts side.
I wish... I hope that does happen.
Yeah,
I hope that does happen.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. That's part of what I'm trying to do. Get the industry as one big, unique brotherhood and push forwards, and everybody share together and grow.
That's the way.
So thank you very much, Mark. It's been great talking to you today, buddy.
Thank you again, mate. Thank you for having me up.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you very much.